You're listening to the tale of two podcasters from the 2007 RAB TGO Challenge, brought to you by the outdoorsStation.co.uk.
This podcast is just one of a special series produced from a wealth of recordings made in May 2007 by two backpackers, Andy Howell and me, Bob Cartwright, as we made our way via two different routes from the west to the east coast of Scotland as part of the 2007 RAB TGO Challenge.
Here at RAB, we're pleased to be involved in the TGO Challenge, which is the perfect testing ground for our clothing and sleeping bags. RAB has a Scottish heritage and over 25 years' experience of making gear that performs in the varied weather of the Highlands, as well as gear for the highest peaks in the Himalaya.
Co-sponsors TGO, the Great Outdoors magazine, have been behind this May event since its inception in 1980. The framework and principle is totally unique. It isn't a race or a competition of any kind. The objective is to foster good fellowship amongst walkers within the framework of a challenging 200-mile expedition. The start consists of a series of sign-out locations on the west coast, from Torridon in the north down to Ardrishaig in the south. Each challenger, solo, couple or group makes their way via a high route, a low route or a mixture of the two across Scotland to finish anywhere between Arbroath and Fraserburgh on the east coast. There's a set 2-week window to do this in, and each participant submits their route for inspection prior to departure for safety and advice reasons. The places, however, are limited to 300, and details about the event, entry forms, past stories and photographs can be found in the October issue of TGO magazine and on their website. Each participant makes the challenge as easy or as hard as they wish. The extremes can be a remote high route, crossing wild country and not seeing another soul for days on end. Or a route which takes in the many social events, perhaps not camping at all and just using established accommodation all the way. Most people do a mixture of the two in different forms. This year I started with my wife Rose in the beautiful village of Plockton, and Andy Howell with his partner Kate started from Strathcarron. We both carried recorders with us to capture our audio diaries and conversations which took place with other walkers as well as locals as we made our way to the east coast. Yes, this is the tale and adventures of two podcasters.
Well, good morning everybody. It's Thursday the 17th and we're just starting our departure from the valley and the glen by doing another river crossing, which we've been fairly lucky on actually. I was looking for some adventurous river crossings, but the water has been on our side thankfully because the rain hasn't come down as predicted, so the rivers are fairly low. And we've just got to cross the second river. Getting out up the embankment, and the path's up there, isn't it? And today is head to Aviemore. It's just gone 8 o'clock in the morning, reasonable start, and we're predicting if luck's on our side, the weather's on our side and the terrain is on our side on the top of there, that we should be in Aviemore around 3 o'clock, if not a bit sooner. And another challenger, Humphrey, tells us that there's a fantastic Italian restaurant on the way in, which is in like a Swiss chalet type building, steep roof and so on. But it's what did you say, an all you can eat for £6?
Yes, pizza and pasta.
Pizza and pasta for £6, which and salad of course, which has a certain attraction. And whetting our appetite for an early arrival. We've got to get there early, do this changeover of gear. We've got a parcel hopefully waiting at the YHA, so I'll be swapping tents and cooking gear and fuel and all this sort of business, and then packing everything else up to send that back. So we need to get to the post office, so that Rose doesn't have too much to take on the plane, which might cause problems, because every now and again a gas cooker seems to cause problems on the at the airports, even though there's no gas. But reading between the lines, it seems to be Liverpool Airport is the one that causes the most problems, rather than Edinburgh or Glasgow, and she's flying from Edinburgh, so we're hoping that's going to be a fairly trouble-free trip. We've normally done it in the past, no problem, but these things change all the time. It's a reasonable morning, actually. How would you describe it, Rose?
Very still.
Say again?
Very still. No wind. Very calm. Very quiet.
There's plenty of cloud, but it's fairly high, isn't it?
Yeah.
And certainly the rain didn't come in as threatened.
No.
In fact, what, 4 nights we've camped now?
Yeah, there's been no
There's
wind,
no wind
really.
at all, any night. It's been quite surprising. Although, I suppose we have been sheltered a couple of times, but there certainly hasn't been any howling gales or...
Complete contrast to last year, which was quite ferocious at times.
Yes, it was. Yes, when we were at Dublock.
Yes.
Or Dulock, as Cameron might correct me. It was certainly blowing a hoolie up there. But still, the other half yet to come. And of course I'll be doing it in a tarp tent, so we'll see how we get on if those weather conditions change. Anyway, so it's the start of the track, so rather than listen to us huff and puff up here, I'm going to switch off now and perhaps switch on a bit later on.
Well, it's morning. We're camped in the wonderfully tranquil setting of Glen Feshie, which truly is a magnificent place. Anyone who's not been through here before certainly needs to do so. There's a lovely little campsite near to a rather splendid bothy with a little tributary stream just running by. I can see the splendid Feshie Lodge just over the river and through the trees. Mountains all around, dark corries, and lots of vegetation, wonderful coniferous trees, Scots pines, lots of birdsong. It's a fantastic place. It's a place that really soothes the body and the mind, which is quite good, because after yesterday we needed that. We started walking from Glen Feshie yesterday with Dave Godfrey, who said, the easiest days are always the worst, and so it proved. We cut up through Phones to join Wade's Military Road, and followed that over the plateau there, with stunning views of both the Monolith Mountains and the distant Cairngorms. And somehow the three of us managed to just miss the end of the walk and find ourselves back on the main road. And we tried several clever tricks to try and get around the road, and that just left us with an hour of trudging up and down fields. In the end, we had to retreat back to the main road again and trudge on round the cutting and the embankment. Not a really pleasant way to start a challenge day. By the time we left Dave and we dropped down to the beginning of the walk through the forest that approached Glen Feshie, it was probably about 2 o'clock, and feet and limbs were getting tired and achy from walking on all of that road. Still, we were soon into the forest, and that soothed the nerves somewhat, and we arrived here probably at Glen Feshie campsite probably about 6 o'clock, and no real incentive to move on very quickly this morning. It's such a beautiful place. There weren't many people here last night. There were a couple of guys we met at Glen Feshie who are now rushing through to finish by Monday. They were in the bothy. There was an Acto and another tent. They packed up and gone very, very early this morning. Perhaps they're making a break for Braemar themselves. I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. We're giving Kate another easy day with her knee. We might just see how far we get. Perhaps have a gentle amble round to White Bridge, or maybe we might take it a bit further if things are going well. But at the moment, this is such a lovely, beautiful spot that it's very difficult to see why you'd really want to leave it. It's certainly very clear to see why somebody built the bothy here, and it's a shame it's been left as a house, but it's to all our walkers' gain that it's now a bothy. It's certainly a fine place, one of the most magical settings for a bothy that you could find.
Well, we switched back on at just gone 12, where we stopped for a brew, and we've run out of brew stuff, so we're now down to the hot chocolates and the OXO cubes. But it's not too bad. We've got a food parcel waiting for us, hopefully, at Aviemore, waiting for me. We're down at the Red Bothy near Cagan, just at the start of what I believe is known famously as the Burma Road. And Humphrey's just been past and told us that £6 special offer at the Italian restaurant in Aviemore is lunchtime only. So he hasn't really stopped for a chat and gone off at a sprint, because I think it's something he's promising himself today. The weather is still a bit changeable, a bit cold on top, but it's been fairly easy going, to be fair. And actually, when we add it all together, although the weather forecast has been wet and windy and miserable, in all honesty, we've probably only had a couple of hours walking in rain. The rest of the time, it's just been sort of drizzle and just wind, isn't it?
Yeah, the weather's been heaps better than last year.
Yeah, so, everybody we've spoken to so far seems to agree that the weather's been good. There was Ian there that had a bit of sleet and hail, but I think it depends on the route you take, obviously. So, although people perhaps that have been following friends that do the challenge have been thinking they've had bad weather, on the whole we fared pretty well. So it's taken us about 4 hours to cross that 10k, 9 or 10k over the top of Carn Cowl, and we're now down in the River Doulnain. I can't, it's right on the crease. Doulnain, River Doulnain, and the navigation across the monoliths is something that you need to be fairly good at, I think. What I was just saying to Humphrey is that I've noticed that there are a lot of tracks which are established Land Rover tracks which just aren't marked, and some of them are a great help, obviously if they're going the right way, but some of them prove to be quite a navigational hindrance, because you're not too sure where you are, and it does make you stop and start every now and again to see if the track actually exists on the map. And I bought a brand new map before we came away, expecting to see a lot of these tracks clearly marked, but it would appear that the Ordnance Survey, in fact, really everywhere since Glen Feshie here hasn't been good, has it?
No, there's been quite a few anomalies, and things don't quite add up to what, they're in the landscape, but they're not on the map.
Yeah. I mean, that loch going down to
The Coogee
Lodge.
Yeah, that was sort of about
and everybody said that one hasn't been changed for years, and then since then it's been Land Rover tracks. But the tracks that we've used have been good and not too punishing on the feet. Humphrey tells us that the Burma Road is better underfoot than the Corrie Eric Pass.
Oh, I thought he said it the other way around.
Did he?
We'll soon find out.
I think we will. I thought he said it was a better surface, so it looks fairly well trodden from the distance here. We're looking at it, and it looks like a motorway going straight over the top. So we've got 2 or 3 hours to get in before the post office closes, because we need to post some stuff.
I was really pleased to see some hares again over the top of the monoliths, and this year they didn't have their winter coats on, they had their spring coats, which was interesting to see. That last year there was still snow up here and it was quite a different season almost, and this year spring just seems that much further forward, and hares just go to prove it, really.
Good sections of lands have been burned. You can see them from here that to promote new growth of the gorse, of the heather for the
Grouse.
The grouse, and there's certainly been plenty of grouse underfoot.
Yeah, definitely. There's plenty have gone up. The other thing that I thought was quite interesting was Humphrey explained what the little sort of bridge type, tiny bridges over some of the streams with sort of contraptions on the top were, and apparently they're traps for wild cats, to catch wild cats, which is totally illegal as they're a protected species. He was quite incensed about it, but I just hadn't recognised, didn't have any understanding of what they were. We sort of commented on them, but didn't know what they were. But that's what he
apparently the cats are blamed for obviously keeping the grouse down. So whoever is trying to trap the cats or catch them in some...
Was it bourgeois capitalists? I think Humphrey was saying. He's probably right.
What was the other thing we wanted to mention as well? We started off the series of podcasts talking about the ticks on brain, midges. And initially they were just a bloody nuisance. You just couldn't stop. It was nice enough to stop. When you did, they found you, and it just made it uncomfortable, as I'm sure you have noted us saying. But the last 2 days has been definitely midge free. So whether it's the west coast again that seems to be predominantly attracting these things or not, I'm not too sure. But at the moment we're sitting here quite happily for the last 10 or 15 minutes and haven't seen anything.
No, it's a lovely spot too, just out the wind and down by the river and waterfall. I shall think of this tomorrow as I'm going back to
suburbia
life and
the office,
real life. Yeah, that's it. Paperwork and people and busyness.
Well, I'm going to miss you.
Oh.
And I'm not just saying that because the microphone's pointing at me. No, I was thinking about that as we were coming over the top there. It is a pleasure to walk with a companion and share the beauty of the place and knowledge and the wildlife and the environment and the experience, and actually changing to go on my own now, which I've done before and is enjoyable and challenging. I'm going to miss not having somebody to share it with.
Oh, well, I'm sure you'll meet people on the way, and
well,
you can make all the comments that you would to me, like, "Oh, there's some sheep." And
I don't say that sort of thing.
Fine, okay.
Right. Well, 20 past 12 rather. Lunch calls if we're going to get there in time. A plate full of pasta and get to the post office. So we better pack up and go.
We better make tracks.
Well, it's evening now, and we are camped at White Bridge, just a little bit short of Braemar. The walk from Ruietchikan, Bothy, was reasonably pleasant this morning, but as we started to climb over and around the high plateau to turn down into the Dee Valley, the winds began to pick up, and actually the weather began to get quite nasty. But we're still on schedule for hitting Braemar on Friday, and so we thought we wouldn't push it too much with Kate's knee, and so we're camped here at White Bridge.
Today was sort of more sort of monotonous day in terms of the landscape. It was a long walk along by the river, over moorland, but all the time keeping fairly close to the river. And where other days have bigger contrasts in them, today was pretty well a long walk along the same sort of landscape.
And so we stopped here at about 4, I guess, and as you can probably hear, it's a very blustery evening, and probably just the kind of evening to test out the wind resistance of the new tent. Maybe it's worth talking a little bit about the tent. For a long time we've used a Hildeberg Nallo tent, and just a couple of weeks ago the zips finally went on the main door, and there didn't seem to be enough time to get that fixed before we came out here, so we took the plunge and bought a new tent. And following Chris Townsend's review in TGO, we bought one of the new Terra Nova Solar 2.2 tents. It's very similar to the old solar tent, except that it's made out of the same lightweight materials that the competition and the ultralight Voyager are made out of. And it has a second vestibule. So this is a 2 vestibule tent, and it's operating quite well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we've come to really quite like having the 2 vestibules. It was a bit strange getting used to it after the Nallo, because we'd come to really know and trust and love the Nallo over a number of years. So it took a while to just get used to this different way in which this tent works. But actually having the 2 vestibules is really good. It means that we can sort of both keep track of our own stuff. It makes all sorts of things about kind of cooking and organising things that much easier. And I think it's worked out really well having the 2 vestibules.
Yeah, and its wind resistance should be quite good. The footprint is almost hexagon, kind of irregular hexagon, if you can imagine that, with the 2 vestibules. So it should shed wind pretty well, and it looks as if this evening it might have to take a bit of a battering, so pretty good test here. So tomorrow morning it's just a quick jaunt through into Braemar, hopefully get the tent pitched in the campsite, find ourselves a nice cup of coffee, and sit down to a couple of days of real food and newspapers.
Yeah, just one other thing to say about the tent, I think, Andy, that it's got a much narrower and smaller sleeping compartment, which again, when we first got the tent, I was a bit anxious that we would find ourselves elbowing each other in the night and bashing into each other. But actually, on a couple of nights when it's been quite cold, I think I've noticed that this tent seems to be particularly good at keeping warmth, and I wonder if that is perhaps related to the fact that it has got this tighter, smaller sleeping compartment, and that seems to hold the warmth very well. And so that's been another bonus, I think, with the tent. It's quite a warm, snug little thing as well.
Possibly. Anybody that knows the Nallo knows that it is a very wide and generously proportioned tent. One of my only criticisms with it is, as the kind of height reduces towards the rear of the tent becomes a little unusable. I mean, you can put equipment down there, but that's it. Whereas with this one, you can use the full length of it, and it's a good length. The other thing about it is that the fly sheet pitches separately to the inner, and there are disadvantages and advantages in that system. We haven't really found any disadvantages. We put this up during a rainstorm, and the inner tent was still dry inside. It does mean you can dry off the fly sheet a bit more quickly, but one advantage with this is that there's a good gap between the fly sheet and the inner tent all the way around, which means that there's not much condensation here. And one of the advantages of having the 2 vestibules, I think, is that if you leave a little air gap at the top of each door, there's a good airflow. So condensation in this tent, a lack of, has been particularly good, I think. And I guess really the Nallo was a very fine tent, and it's very, very popular, and we'll probably still get ours repaired. But I think probably on balance now we think that this Solar 2.2 is probably even better a backpacking tent, and that's saying something.
Yeah, it is saying something, but I think perhaps that's right, that for this kind of long distance, having to do things day in, day out, the tent's working out really well. Anyway, looking forward to being in Braemar tomorrow, and to that cup of coffee you were mentioning, and getting hold of a Guardian and seeing what's been going on in the world, and generally sort of catching up with things again.
Okay, and just one final thing on the tent is, when we looked to buy one, it appeared that only Ellis Brigham were selling these at the moment, but we managed to pick it up over their mail order internet site, and it came within 1 or 2 days. So if you're trying to find this, at the moment we couldn't find it anywhere else other than Ellis Brigham, and they tell us they're the only people selling the tent at the moment. But I think on our experiences so far, if you've been interested in this, you're looking for a new 2-person tent in the summer, then we certainly wouldn't dissuade you. Anyway, yep, looking forward to Braemar tomorrow.
Well, it's the morning of Friday the 18th, and we're just in the process of walking down to Aviemore railway station from the youth hostel. Just very quick update. We didn't do one last night because we had too much to do. We did the Burma Road, which has got a better surface than the Corrie but it really is, because you can just see it going off into the distance like a brown snake. It is quite head down to get on with it, but we really motored over it and got up and over it in under 2 hours. I think 43 minutes to get up it, and then another 30 or so to get down. As usual, we got to the edge of Aviemore, and suburbia confused the map reading skills, and we ended up almost walking down the bypass and not walking into town. But we managed to avoid that embarrassment at the last minute, which was good. Then we went on a shopping spree, which is part of the reason my rucksack weighs so much this morning, because the temptation is, as soon as you get to suburbia and supermarkets, is, oh yes, I've quite fancy a bar of shortbread, and oh yes, a bottle of whiskey and a platypus would be quite nice, and oh yes, I've run out of chocolate bars, and oh yes, you put it on in the morning and go, oh my goodness me. So this morning my lightweight pack isn't anymore. It's also got 6 days worth of food and emergency food and so on, because this was going to be my last food point while I changed over the gear. So I've also changed over the gear, which I'll touch on a bit later. But it's quite an emotional time, because I'm just walking Rosie down to the station and she doesn't want to go, really.
No, I don't want to go at all. I think I'd much rather be walking with you.
So it's not easy. And it's quite interesting how the emotional bond is much stronger as well once you've shared something like this, and obviously Rose not being able to finish it due to circumstances at home is upsetting for both of us. However, having said that, we've got to do what we've got to do, really. Aviemore Station's a beautiful classic wooden Victorian style station, which has been renovated and looks a treat. There's a pile of roadworks at the front which sadly spoil the look, but Aviemore itself, from our quick whip through town yesterday and popping in a few shops and going to the post office, is quite interesting. First of all, it's full to the brim of East Europeans. No matter where you go, whichever shop you go into or restaurant, it's Latvian, Polish or East German you seem to hear, which is the first eye-opener. And the second eye-opener is they're remarkably complacent. I think we need to go through there. Unlike the smaller villages that we've been to, and people are happy to chat and talk and make your acquaintance, here they're just happy to take your money and say thanks very much, bye. Anyway, so we're on the station, and we're on our lonesome, and a beautiful station it is too. Actually, it reminds me very much of Malvern, where we come from. Same sort of architecture and styling. Anyway, so I'm going to pick this up a bit later on once I've said my farewells to Rose. She's catching 7:22 to Edinburgh, hopefully. And then by the time I get to Braemar, she should be safely back at home. So it's a fond and very heartbreaking farewell, really. Oh dear, that wasn't easy. Wasn't easy at all. So 7:30, and I'm just going to head down the road a bit to pick up the footpath to the Larry Guru, where I'm hoping to meet another challenger, Lee Wells. He said he'd be around there at this time, so if he's on time and I'm on time, we might meet up with each other. Failing that, I'll catch up with him in Braemar. But Rose would appreciate this. I think it's called sympathetic fallacy. The moment she left and as the train pulled out, the blackest clouds pulled over the top of the Larry Guru. I can see it from here, and I'm already feeling the raindrops. So if it hasn't rained properly before, it's going to give itself a bloody good go now. But it's going to be a very lonely walk for the next few hours until I meet up with somebody else and chew the fat. So I'll switch off for now, and then if I do catch up with Lee or anybody, I'll switch it back on again. Well, the weather certainly has turned against us now, and I've just got down to the Cairngorm footbridge and found a handful of people camping, or rather say packing up, ready to go and head over the Larry Guru, one of which was Lee, which I hope to meet here. And I'm trying to persuade him to go over Ben McDewey, but you're not keen this morning.
No, I'm ready now, Bob. Yeah, now packed away and feeling fit. Had my Weetabix, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah, but you fancy maybe Ben McDewey then?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay then. That's good. Even though it's thick mist, we'll give that a look.
Oh,
and
don't know about the mist though.
How was so the trip's been good for you this year?
Very good. Yeah, enjoyed all the way. Yeah.
Yeah. We always seem to meet around the sort of Braemar area, don't we?
That's right. Yeah, and walk out together.
Yeah.
The last 3 years, I think.
What's where did you come through from the Corrie Eric?
We came to Lagan, and then from Lagan to Newtonmore via Glen Banco, which was really nice. It was a real treat. Yeah, stayed at the bothy there, or outside, camped outside the bothy. It was a real treat, that was. Yeah, see an eagle.
Really?
Flying, yeah.
Oh, that must have been magnificent.
Yeah, I thought it was a microlight for a start, but then I realised it was eagle. Seriously, yeah.
What's the weather been like in the camping spots?
Weather been brilliant. Couldn't have asked for more, and the camping spots, yeah, not bad. Yeah, no perfect pitch, but not bad at all.
And has it been a fairly sociable one this year? Have you seen quite a few people en route?
Yeah, very, very sociable. Yeah, met Tony Bow on the way, and we've been walking together and laughing all the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've got him next to me here. He's just put down his big Agnes. How are you getting on with your big Agnes?
It's okay. It's okay. Not 100%, but it needs improving, I think, really. Yeah. But for just one solo, it's okay. Okay. Porch is not big enough to store gear.
But you've got plenty of space inside, though.
Plenty of space inside. Excellent inside. No complaints. The mesh in there is not a problem. You don't feel the cold or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just the porch is a bit small. Yeah. That's it.
And you got the Kelty pack now. Last time I saw you was a couple of years ago, and I'm sure you had a Carrymore. So are you pleased with the Kelty?
Yes, excellent pack. Lightweight. Plenty of space in it. Big volume inside.
It actually looks almost as big as a standard Carrymore pack.
It is about 70 litre actually. It's probably a bit too big.
It's quite nice the fact that the side pockets are removable.
Yes, there's also a front pocket that comes with it, which I don't use. So it's just ample. It's fine.
And has Lee been keeping you entertained on the way over?
Yes, we've had some great fun. Great fun. Met some various people. I threw my stove in a rubbish bin accidentally. So you'll probably hear about that later on from challenges.
So have you picked it up, or did you
keep saying we're lost when we're not? So no, we've had some good fun.
And have you got your stove back, or have you?
Yes, I managed to retrieve it. We was waiting to go to get off in the morning, and of course Lee was all packed up, and I was still there unloading me pack and looking for it, and he happened to mention it. He says, I'm sure I was seeing something in the rubbish that you threw away last night. So I had to go about a kilometre over the river up to the bridge and then to a B&B where I threw the rubbish away, and it was in the bin. And when I went to retrieve it, I opened the gate into the courtyard, and here was the owner. I had to go over and explain to him that I wanted to go through his rubbish bins, which he was looking at me rather dubious, you know.
Yeah.
But I managed to get it back and everything was okay.
Desperate times, these challenges.
Desperate times that was, yeah. I was really in a panic on the morning then, you know, without a stove. But, yeah.
Oh, what stove was it then?
It was the MRS, is it a pocket, the rocket?
Oh, right, so small enough to lose easily. Yeah.
Well, not really, because it was in the red case. I mean, rubbish must have been on top.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you had a good trip as well then?
Excellent. Apart from today, the weather's been fine.
Yeah.
Excellent, you know.
So
the rain's held off.
So where are we heading today then? We're going over to what's it called? Derry Lodge?
Yeah.
Derry Lodge?
Yeah, Derry Lodge sounds good to me. It's a fantastic camping spot apparently, so everybody keeps telling me.
I passed through this way, I think it was last year, and it was certainly a nice spot when you get down the other side. It's just the trip through the Larry Garoo or over the top that tends to take the time, certainly.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's no problem because, you know, we're fit.
Well, depending on the weather, isn't it? If this carries on like this, it'll be the Larry Garoo, personally.
Yeah.
You know.
Take the safer option, won't we? Yeah.
Excellent. All right, and guys, well, I'm going to look forward to your company, and I'll better get my waterproofs on. And the Larry Garoo it was in the end. The weather certainly was changing very, very rapidly, and none of us really felt that we wanted to go up Ben McDooey if the weather was going to turn against us, which in fact it did going through the Larry Garoo. It really is a channel for the wind, and it does come howling through there, at least it did do today, and along came the rain with it. So we've had a fairly changeable day, and the guys are saying this is probably the most they've had waterproofs on for their trip, which is quite interesting. So we're now settled down at Derry Lodge. The guys are in individual tents. I've got my new tarp tent, the Go Light Hut 2, which is being supported by two walking poles. If you like, it's a sloping A-frame fly sheet with no inner, and I'm lying inside my bivvy bag in there. I've got absolutely huge amounts of room, and I've got it toe into the wind at the moment, although the wind keeps changing, so hence the reason you hear it flap a bit in the background. Then I've also got my new cooking kit, which is a meths-based kit, which is the white box stove, and on that I've just cooked my a Bovril drink, and I've had some soup, and I've also had some steak and kidney, which is a moment reconstituting. I boiled that up and popped it in a cosy kit, and that's keeping it very, very warm, and in a minute I'm going to add the smash to it to soak up the remaining juices, but I know it's going to be piping hot still, which will be good. I can actually see some sunlight still through the door here, which is ironic. You can hear the wind flapping the material, so there's plenty of sunlight out there. Anyway, it's been a fairly tough day today. My rucksack certainly was loaded up with far too many goodies, and the extra 2 or 3k really felt that today on my feet, and also working across the boulder fields in the Larry Garoo, really felt it on my knees and feet. So I'm glad to be lying down now and resting. It's gone 6. We actually finished about 4:30ish, which is really early for me. Normally I'm finishing around now, between 6 and 7. I'm glad to be lying down and resting. I feel quite tired today, what with the bad night's sleep last night, and also the early start as well. It's been great catching up with Lee and with Tony. Lee, as he said, we normally bump into each other around Braemar area and spend the last couple of days together just chewing the fat and enjoying the scenery, which is good. And Lee I started walking with a few years ago in Torridon by coincidence, so it was good to see Tony again as well. Although I have to say I felt really been feeling quite low today. With Rose going back, I'm really missing her, and by the time I got to the guys around 8:30, 9 o'clock this morning,
I was feeling quite down, so it's been heavy on the heart and heavy on the back today, carrying on. And it's a great shame that she can't see it through, although she's wants to and she's fully capable of doing it. Circumstances just don't allow it, which sounds quite pathetic now when I'm saying it out loud, but that's the way it goes, sadly, sometimes. So I know she'll be listening to the rest of these podcasts with great interest to see what she missed. And at the moment, all she's missing is a bit of a windstorm. The rain keeps coming and going, but the wind is certainly there, and it's incredibly changeable. Change comes from north-south 1 minute and east-west the next, so it's swirling all the time, and it's giving all three tents a bit of a battering. So that is about today. I think we've done about 23k today, plus the extra 5 or 6 I added on the beginning, so it's not a bad day, sort of 29k. Hard going, but Derry Lodge is a nice camping spot, and if the weather was slightly better it'd be absolutely terrific. So it's a short yomp tomorrow down to Aviemore, into the enjoyable flesh spot that it is, and we're looking forward to getting our tents pitched up and getting our face filled with fish and chips from the great little chippy there, and then popping down to the Five Farms and meeting up with a lot of faces that we probably haven't seen since we started, and catching up with everybody's stories. So once I get in there, I'll try and switch the recorder on and speak to people and see how their trips have been, and if they've got any stories to tell. So that's about wrapped it up for Friday night. 6:30. Rose should probably be home about now, and I'm stuck in a bivvy bag in a windy tarp tent, thinking about getting some sleep. So I'll switch on again tomorrow. Oh, here comes another blast.
Concludes this part of The Tale of Two Podcasters from the 2007 RAB TGO Challenge, brought to you by theoutdoorsStation.co.uk.